The incident Jason had been living with his alien roommate, Cathier, for 2 weeks. Now, it wasn't easy. Cather was big, 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales with sharp curved claws and piercing yellow eyes. He was a Gorvax, a reptilian species that valued strength, honor, and a very strange sense of personal space. Jason had learned to deal with the fact that Cathier never knocked before entering a room, but tonight that little habit changed. Everything Jason had just finished his evening workout. He wasn't a soldier or anything, but he liked to stay in shape back on Earth. He had done boxing as a hobby. It was nothing serious, just a way to stay active and relieve stress. But out here on Gorvax 3, nobody had even heard of boxing. So after his workout, he decided to practice a few moves in front of the mirror. He threw some quick punches, dodged an imaginary opponent, and finished with a solid uppercut. That's when the door slammed open. Cathier froze in place, his massive yellow eyes wide and his muscular frame tensed, and his claws flexed like he was preparing for a battle. Jason blinked mid-punch, but Cather did not move. He just stared, his breathing slow and heavy. It was awkward. Really awkward. Dude, ever heard of knocking? Jason said, lowering his hand. Still no response. Cather just stood there staring. Jason sighed and grabbed a towel, wiping the sweat off his face. Look, if you're going to barge in like that, at least say something. Finally, Cather took a step back. His massive chest rose and felt like he had just seen a ghost. Then, without another word, he turned and stormed out of the room. Jason frowned. That was weird. Usually Cather was blunt, direct, and had no problem speaking his mind. What had just happened? Something was wrong. The next morning, Jason woke up to something even weirder. Cather was standing by the door, perfectly still, staring at him. Jason nearly jumped out of bed. Holy, what are you doing? Cather lowered his head slightly. It wasn't an apology. It was something else. Respect, submission. Jason couldn't tell. I have prepared food, sir, said in his deep, rumbling voice. Jason sat up, rubbing his eyes. Okay, thanks. On the desk beside him, there was a tray of steamed meat and strange alien fruits. Jason had never seen Cather prepare food before. In fact, they usually just grabbed meals from the campus cafeteria. Jason picked up a piece of fruit and took a cautious bite. Sweet, juicy, not bad. Okay, cool. But why? Cather didn't answer right away. He took a slow breath, his claws tapping against his armored skin. Then carefully he said, I saw what you did last night. Jason swallowed. You mean my workout? Cather's yellow eyes locked onto him. That was no mere training. That was a challenge. Jason frowned. Oh, what? Cathier tilted his head slightly as if confused by Jason's confusion. You displayed strength, precision, control. I did not. Meet your challenge, therefore I must submit. Jason's brain took a full 5 seconds to process that. Wait, hold on, he said, raising a hand. You think I was challenging you? Cather nodded. Yes. Jason groaned and ran a hand through his hair. Dude, I was just exercising. It wasn't challenge. That's just something humans do to stay in shape. Cathier's expression remained unreadable. Silence filled the room. Finally, in a quiet voice, Cather said, you move like a warlord. Jason almost laughed. A warlord? That was ridiculous. He was just a normal guy. Sure, he knew how to throw a punch, but he wasn't some legendary warrior. Cather, listen, Jason said carefully. I promise I wasn't trying to challenge you. I was just, training. But Cather did not look convinced. If anything, he looked even more certain. I saw your stance. I saw your discipline. Humans are dangerous. Jason sighed. Not all humans, just some, and I'm definitely not one of them. Cather back, clenching his fists. Then why does my body tell me otherwise? Jason had no answer for that. A strange shift for the rest of the day. Cather acted strange. Normally, he walked around campus with his head high, shoulders back, proud and unshaken. But now, whenever Jason was near, he lowered his head slightly. It wasn't fear, it was something else. Respect, deference. Then things got even weirder at lunch. Cather's friends stopped talking when Jason entered the cafeteria. Several of them nodded at him the way soldiers might greet a superior officer. One even moved aside to give Jason the best seat at the table. Jason sat down slowly, his stomach twisting. Okay, what is going on? Cather hesitated. Then, in a quiet, serious tone, he said, word has spread. They know now you're not just a human, you are a warrior. Jason nearly choked on his food. I am what Kata nodded firmly. I saw the way you fought, and I did not challenge you. That means I have accepted your dominance. Jason set his fork down. This was getting out of control, but I didn't even fight anyone, he argued. Kata met his gaze. You didn't have to. Jason groaned, rubbing his temples. This was insane. He had come to Gorvax 3 to study, maybe make some friends. Instead, somehow, he had accidentally become some kind of legendary warrior, and he had no idea how to fix it. The awkward aftermath. Jason woke up the next morning feeling uneasy. He had strange dreams, flashes of Cather's wide, unblinking stare, the heavy silence in the room, and the way his massive alien roommate had backed away like Jason was some kind of unstoppable force. It had to be a misunderstanding, right? But the moment he rolled out of bed, he knew something was off. For one, Cthulhu was already awake, standing in front of the door, completely still, arms clasped behind his back like a soldier at attention. His tall, muscular frame blocked most of the light coming in through the window, casting his face in shadow. Jason froze mid-stretch, bemoaning Thur's yellow eyes locked onto him. I have prepared food, Cather said, his deep voice unusually formal. Jason blinked. You what? Cathier stepped aside, and Jason's eyes fell on the carefully arranged tray on his desk. It wasn't just a snack. It was a feast of plates stacked high with steaming roasted meat, neatly arranged slices of an alien fruit Jason had never tried before, and even a small cup of something that smelled suspiciously like Korvac spiced tea. Jason's stomach grumbled. It looked delicious, but that didn't change the fact that Cathier had never once brought him food before. Jason frowned, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Okay, this is nice, but why? Cather hesitated, his reptilian claws flexed slightly, and for the first time since Jason had met him, he looked almost nervous. Jason had never seen Cathier nervous before. It was unsettling. I saw what you did last night, Cathier finally said. Jason took a second to process that his brain was still booting up. You mean my workout? Cathier gave a slow, deliberate nod. Yes, Jason let out a short laugh. Oh, dude, I was just exercising. That wasn't anything special. Cathier didn't blink. That was not simple exercise. Jason sighed, reaching for a piece of fruit. Okay, I'll bite. What was it then? Cather straightened his posture, even stiffened before his voice dropped to a low, almost reverent tone. A challenge. Jason froze mid-bite. Of what? Cather nodded, dead serious. You displayed strength, precision, and control. You stood firm in battle stance, eyes sharp, movement sufficient. You called forth the ancient challenge, and I did not answer. Jason slowly set the fruit down. A hold on backup. Are you saying you think I was challenging you to a fight? Core nodded solemnly. Jason stared at him, waiting for the joke. It never came. You're joking, Jason said, voice flat. I would not joke about combat rights, Carter said seriously. Not after what I witnessed. Jason groaned and dragged a hand down his face. Okay, listen, that wasn't challenge. That's just something humans do. We train, we work out, we practice movements to stay in shape. Cathier remained silent. Jason looked at him again, searching his expression for any sign of disbelief. There was none. Finally, in a quiet voice, Kurther said, I saw the way you fought, and I did not challenge you. That means I have accepted your dominance. Jason nearly choked. My Cathier gave a slow, deliberate nod. By ancient Korvac's law, I am now honor-bound to serve you. Jason stared at him. No, nope. Absolutely not. There's been a mistake. But Cather wasn't listening. His mind was already made up. I will assist you in all things, Cathier continued, as if he were reciting the sacred vow. I will ensure your comfort, your protection, your needs will be met as my superior. Will his law? Jason groaned. This could not be happening. The campus reaction. Jason thought maybe, just maybe, he could talk Cather out of this. He figured once his roommate saw Jason was just a normal guy, he'd snap out of it. That idea died before lunch. It started small. Other Gorvac students stopped talking when Jason entered a room. They would glance at him, murmur to one another, and then bow slightly before moving out his way. Jason barely had time to process that before he reached the cafeteria. He grabbed a tray, loaded it with food, and went to find a seat. Then Cthulhu's friends spotted him. One of them, a large Korvac with dark blue scales, immediately stood up and moved aside. The seat is yours, he said firmly. Jason hesitated. Thanks. He sat down slowly, the feeling of dozens of alien eyes on him. The Blue-shelled Korvox gave Kathy a respectful nod. He is even more fearsome than you described. Jason nearly choked on his drink. Excuse me. Cather's chest puffed out slightly, looking oddly proud. His combat movements were precise. Flawless. Jason wiped his mouth. Okay, let's be clear, I wasn't fighting anyone. Cather's friend tilted his head. Yet you moved as if you were a warrior does not need a battle to show his skill. Jason set his fork down, staring at the Mew. Guys really think I'm some kind of fighter? Cather nodded yes to Blue. Scale Gorvax rumbled in agreement. Word has spread, many are curious. Jason didn't like the sound of that. Curious how? Cather hesitated. Some wish to see your strength for themselves. Jason's stomach dropped. Cather met his gaze seriously. You may soon face challenges, direct combat, perhaps duels. Jason let out a slow breath. Right, great love that for me. He had come to Gorvax 3 to study, maybe make some friends instead. He had accidentally become a legendary warrior, and he had no idea how to fix it. The truth comes out, Jason had never been this uncomfortable in his entire life. It had been 3 days since Cather walked in on his simple workout. 3 days since he had accidentally convinced an entire alien species that he was a warrior king. 3 days since his life had spiraled into a weird intergalactic action movie that he never signed up for, and things were only getting worse. At first it was just Cathier treating him differently, bringing him food, walking slightly behind him like a personal bodyguard, calling him Battle Alpha in front of everyone. But then the rest of the Gorvok students started acting strange too. They cleared a path for him in the hallways. They greeted him with silent bows. Some of them even whispered his name as he walked by, their yellow eyes filled with what looked like awe. The real breaking point came this morning. Jason had just sat down for breakfast when a group of Korvax students approached his table. They were tall, muscular, and very serious looking. One of them stepped forward. His scales were black and lined with deep red markings, a sign of high status. According to third, Jason tensed. Oh no, here we go. The red-marked Korvox thumped his chest once with his fist. Battle Alpha, he said firmly, I offer my loyalty. Jason nearly choked on his food. You hey? The other Gorvak behind him thumped their chests in unison. We offer our loyalty. They repeated. Jason turned to Cuffler in panic. What is happening? Cathier gave a slow, approving nod, as if this was completely normal. They recognize your strength. They wish to serve you. Jason ran a hand through his hair. Nope, this had to stop right now. He stood up so fast his chair nearly toppled over. All right, listen, there's been a huge misunderstanding, and we need to clear it up right now. Cather tilted his head. Misunderstanding? Jason pointed a finger at him. You mean that workout? You need to explain what you thought you saw, because I promise you I am not who you think I am. Cather's expression finally changed, a flicker of uncertainty. Then, after a long pause, he gestured for Jason to follow him. We will speak in private, he said. Jason exhaled sharply. Finally, some answers. The revelation. Cather led Jason to a quiet section of the campus, a secluded courtyard with a massive Korvax statues loomed over them. Jason crossed his arms. All right, explained. Cather took a slow breath. I come from a warrior species. Jason snorted. Yeah, no kidding. Cather continued, unfazed. For Gorvak, combat is sacred. It is not just fighting. It is an art, a way of life. Strength is not only about power, it is about control, precision, and dominance. Jason nodded. Okay, but what does that have to do with? Cather raised a claw at hand. The ritual you performed, it is ancient. Jason blinked. Ritual? What ritual? Cather's yellow eyes hardened. The way you moved that night, the way you struck the air, the focus in your stance, it was the battle posture, the warlords of old. Jason's stomach dropped. Wait, what? Cather stepped closer, his massive frame casting a shadow over Jason. Thousands of years ago, before Gorvax were a space-faring people, we lived in war clans, fought endlessly for dominance. The greatest warriors did not waste energy in battle. They broke their enemies' spirits before the fight even began. Jason swallowed hard. And you think I did that? Cather nodded. The movements you made are recorded in our history. The slow, careful stance, the deliberate strikes to the air, showing technique. Without need for combat, you demonstrated strength without needing to fight. Jason felt light-headed. You're telling me that I accidentally recreated some ancient Korvok's warlord technique? Cather thumped his chest. You did more than that. You Performed it perfectly, Jason groaned. Dude, it was just a workout, Cather. Hesitated perhaps to you, but to us, it was a declaration. And I failed to. Answer it, Jason's brain short-circuited. Wait, what happens if someone doesn't? Answer a challenge like that. Cather clenched his jaw, then they have admitted. Defeat, Jason took a slow step. Back, you're telling me that because you didn't challenge me back, you. And everyone else now sees me as what you're. Leader Core didn't blink. Yes, Jason nearly screamed the unfixable problem. Okay. Jason muttered, pacing back and forth. This is fixable, we just have to tell everyone I'm not a warlord, that I was just doing a normal human thing. It's just a cultural mix-up. Cather's expression darkened. It is not that simple. Jason stopped pacing. What, why not? Cather exhaled slowly. Word is already spread. Jason's stomach twisted. So Cather turned, staring at the Gorvok statues surrounding them. In our history, false warlords have tried to claim power before. Pretenders, liars. He looked back at Jason. If you claim you're not a warrior, there are only two possible outcomes. Jason swallowed. I'm not going to like this. And my Cather shook his head. One, he said, holding up a clawed finger. They will assume you're being humble, and your legend will grow. Jason groaned. Great. What's option 2/3 yellow? Eyes flashed. They will assume you are lying, and someone will challenge you. Jason's breath caught in his throat. A challenge. Cather nodded grimly. A battle. To prove your claim, and if you lose, all honor is stripped from you. Jason felt sick. A mistake, a simple mistake. And now he was stuck. If he admitted the truth, he would have to fight someone, a real Gorvak's warrior. And from the way Cather talked about combat, losing would not be a small thing. Jason slumped onto a bench, rubbing his face. I am so screwed, he muttered. Cather stepped forward, placing a heavy clawed hand on Jason's shoulder. His grip was firm, unshaking. No, Cather said, you are not, because I will make sure you do not fail. Jason glanced up. How? Cather's expression was dead serious. I will train you, he said. If a challenge comes, you will be ready. Jason let out a long, slow breath. Right, no pressure. The chain reaction. Jason thought things were bad before. He was wrong, because now things were much worse. It had been less than a day since. Cather explained the full scope of his situation. He wasn't just a respected warrior among the Gorvaks. Now he was their battle alpha, a title he never asked for, never wanted, indefinitely didn't deserve at first. Jason thought maybe, just maybe, the whole thing would blow over. Maybe the Gorvaks would lose interest. Maybe they'd realize he was just a normal human guy and move on with their lives. That was not what happened. Instead, the rumors got worse. The campus reaction. Jason couldn't walk anywhere without attracting attention. Everywhere he went, whispers followed. That's him, the human warlord. I heard he defeated Cather without even touching him. No, I heard he stared him down, and Cather surrendered on the spot. Jason nearly tripped over his own feet. The first time he heard that one, it didn't stop there. By the time he got to his next class, even professors were looking at him differently. His history instructor, a gray-furred alien with 4 eyes and a nervous twitch, actually hesitated before calling Jason's name for attendance. A Mr. Jason. Jason looked up. Yeah. The professor gulped. Very good to have you here today, sir. Jason stared. Sir. The other students were staring at him too, some with respect, some with fear, some with barely contained excitement, like they were waiting for him to do something dramatic. Jason sighed and slumped in his seat. Great. Just great. Cather's loyalty becomes a problem. Jason's biggest problem was still Cather, because Cather, unlike Jason, fully believed in the legend. Now that Jason knew the full story, he realized Cather wasn't just being polite or weirdly respectful. Cather was acting like Jason was a superior officer, and that was very bad. For example, when Jason woke up the next morning, he found Cather standing guard at the door, like literally standing guard, arms crossed, back straight, eyes scanning the room like he was protecting Jason from an assassination attempt. Jason groaned. Cather, what are you doing? Cather didn't move. It is my duty to ensure your safety. Battle alpha. Jason sat up, rubbing his face from what Cather tilted his head slightly. Potential threats. Jason narrowed his eyes. Cather, this is a university campus, not a war zone. Cather's eyes flickered. Perhaps, but as your sworn second, it is my role to guard you regardless. Jason let out a long sigh. Dude, I don't need a bodyguard. Cather hesitated. I understand. Jason Relax, good. Cather's claws flexed, I will simply. Watch from a distance instead, Jason grown a new group of followers, Jason. Wasn't just being followed by Cower. Anymore by the time he got to the cafeteria for breakfast, there was a group, at least 5 Gorvok students were standing near his table, not sitting. Standing, Jason leaned toward Cat. Okay, who are they? Cather looked over at the group, nodding approvingly. They are warriors who recognize your strength. They wish to learn from you, Jason. Pinched the bridge of his nose. I am not a warrior. Cather gave him a look of pure disbelief. Jason sighed. Fine. What do they think they're going to learn, Cather? Smirked, slightly tactic strategy, the human way of war. Jason's stomach twisted. Oh no, the first challenge. Jason thought he had time to fix things. He thought he could reason with everyone, clear up the misunderstanding before it got out of control. Then a Gorvok student stepped forward. He was huge, bigger than Cather. His scales were scared, his arms thick. With muscle, his claws looked like they could tear through steel. And worst of all, he looked excited. He pounded his chest with a loud thump. I challenged the battle. Alpha. Jason's entire body went cold. Cather immediately stepped in front of Jason, his tail flicking sharply. You dare challenge him? His voice was full of shock and fury. The big Gorvak's grinned. I mean no disrespect, but if he is truly our superior, he will prove the other. Gorvak started murmuring. Some were nodding, as if this was completely reasonable. Others looked excited. Jason gulped. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Cather turned toward Jason, his expression serious. If you accept, you must win, otherwise you will lose all. Standing, Jason palled. And if I don't accept? Cather hesitated. Then you admit weakness. Jason felt trapped. If he fought, he'd get demolished. If he refused, he'd lose all respect. There was only one option left. He had to think fast. Jason's last-minute plan. Jason took a deep breath. Then, with every ounce of fake confidence he could muster, he stepped forward. The big Gorvaks grinned wider. He was expecting Jason to agree, expecting a fight. Jason gave him a slow, deliberate look. Then he tilted his head. Why would I waste my time fighting you? Silence. The big Gorvaks blinked. What? Jason smirked. Pure bluffing. A real warrior doesn't fight battles that aren't worth their time. Why would I lower myself for a simple test of strength? Strength isn't just muscle, it's strategy. It's knowing when to fight and when to walk away. The Gorvak warrior hesitated. The crowd murmured. Cather stared at Jason like he had just spoken ancient wisdom. The big Gorvak scowled. You mean to say I'm not worthy of a fight? Jason crossed his arms. I mean to say that I don't need to prove anything. The warrior's expression twitched. His tail flicked aggressively. Then he let out a short, frustrated growl and backed away. Jason's heart was hammering in his chest. He had just barely talked his way out of that. Cather exhaled deeply. That was brilliant. Jason sat down, trying not to shake. Yeah, let's go with that. But he knew this wasn't over. The challenges were just beginning. The ultimate challenge. Jason barely had time to enjoy his temporary victory. Yes, he had dodged the first challenge. Barely. His quick thinking had worked, but deep down he knew the truth. This wasn't over. Word spread fast. A Gorvak student body was buzzing with whispers about the battle. Alpha's refusal to fight. Some were impressed. Others were skeptical, and a few they wanted proof. Jason could feel it in the way the Gorvak's warriors watched him now, not just with respect, not just with awe. With curiosity, and curiosity, Jason realized, was dangerous. The arrival of the Real warrior 3 days later. Jason woke up to Cather standing at the foot of his bed. Get up, Cather said, voice unusually tense. He has arrived. Jason groaned, rubbing his eyes. Who? Cather's jaw tightened. My brother? Jason blinked. Wait, you have a brother? Cather nodded once. And he has come to test you. Jason sat up slowly. Test me? How? Cather exhaled in combat. Jason froze. Oh, that was bad. Very, very bad. The difference between a student and a warrior. Jason knew Cather was big, but when he finally saw Cather's brother, he realized something. Cather was nothing compared to this guy. The Gorvak, standing in the center of the courtyard, was a monster. Nearly 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, covered in dark blue scales with deep battle scars across his arms and chest. His yellow eyes glowed like molten gold. Sharp with experience. This wasn't a student, this was a warrior. Cather clenched his jaw. His name is Varix. He has served in the Gorvak's military for 5 years. He has won over 40 duels. He has killed in real combat. Jason's stomach twisted. And he wants to fight me. Cather nodded. He does not believe the stories. He thinks you are a fraud. Jason let out a weak laugh. Well, he's not wrong, Kata frowned you. Cannot let him expose you, Jason raised his hands. I am not fighting a trained. Alien soldier, Kata grabbed Jason's shoulder, eyes fierce if you refuse it. Will mean your legend is false, the honor you have built will crumble you will be. Nothing, Jason swallowed hard. No pressure challenge is issued, Varric stood in. The center of the courtyard, surrounded by dozens of Korvac students, they all watched silent and eager as Jason approached. Varric's voice was deep, grawly. You are the human they called a battle. Alpha Jason forced himself to stand tall. That's what they say, Varric snorted. I do not believe in ghost stories, Jason frowned. Ghost stories, Varric stepped forward, towering over him. I believe in warriors I can see. I believe in warriors who have bled on the battlefield. You have not bled, you have not fought, you are nothing but words. Jason clenched his fist. The crowd murmured. This was the moment, the turning point. If he backed down now, it was over. Jason took a deep breath. And what do you want me to do? Varric's grin, sharp teeth flashing. Prove it. He slammed his fist into his chest. I challenge you to a duel, the only way out. Jason's heart pounded. Cather's words echoed in his mind. If you refuse, you are nothing. If you lose, you are nothing. No good options. Jason was not a warrior. He wasn't trained. He wasn't strong. If he fought Varric in a real battle, he'd get destroyed. But Jason wasn't just human. He was smart. Slowly, he looked up at Varric and let out a small, knowing smirk. All right, I accept your challenge. The crowd exploded. Korvac students thumped their chests, their tails flicking excitedly. Some cheered, others roared. Jason ignored them. His brain was working at full speed. He had one chance to win this, and it wasn't through brute strength. It was through something better. Jason's strategy. Cather pulled Jason aside. Quickly, are you insane? Jason smirked. Probably. Cather's jaw tightened. You cannot beat him. Jason took a deep breath. Not in a fight, no. Cather narrowed his eyes. And how do you plan to win? Jason smiled. By not fighting. At all the rules of the duel, the crowd gathered in a large circle. Varric stood on one side, muscles tense, claws flexed. He was ready for battle. Jason stood on the other, calm, relaxed. Korvac's elder stepped forward. This is a formal duel. No weapons, only skill. To fight ends when one submits or is defeated. Jason nodded. Sounds fair. Varric's grinned. Prepare yourself, human. Jason exhaled slowly. All right, time to bluff the fight. That wasn't fight. The elder dropped his hand. Varric's charged forward, claws raised. Jason did not move at the very last second. When Varric was inches away, Jason took a single calculated step to the side. Varric stumbled just for a second. Jason smirked. Good. Varric growled and swung again, fast, precise. Jason dodged, not by much, just enough. The crowd murmured. Varric attacked again. Jason dodged, and again, and again, and again. Within 30 seconds, something strange happened. Varric was breathing harder. Jason wasn't. Jason smiled, tired already. Varric snarled, stand and fight. Jason shook his head. Why, you're doing all the work. More murmurs from the crowd. Varric roared and lunged with all his strength. At the last moment, Jason sidestepped just slightly. Varric tripped, not a lot, just enough. He stumbled forward, arms flailing, and fell to one knee. Silence. Jason took a single step forward. Varric looked up, breathing hard. Jason smirked. Looks like you submitted. First, the crowd erupted. The Rex's eyes widened. His tail flicked sharply. He had lost in Jason. He had never thrown a single punch to fight with a twist. Silence. For the first time since arriving at Korvac 3, Jason had managed to shock an entire crowd of aliens. Varric, the battle-hardened warrior, knelt before him, not out of choice, but because he'd been outmaneuvered. Jason hadn't thrown a punch, hadn't landed a kick. He had won without fighting, and that was infinitely worse. The aftershock. The crowd was whispering that was incredible. He moved like a shadow. Did you see how he never even had a strike? But not everyone was impressed. Some of the Korvac warriors looked angry, others confused. One of them stepped forward, a burly, red-skilled Korvac with deep scars across his arms. His yellow eyes burned with suspicion. That was not a duel, he growled. That was trickery. Jason exhaled. Here we go. Another warrior spoke up. Varric did not submit. He was simply outmaneuvered. A third hissed. The human dishonored the fight by refusing to meet strength with strength. Jason clenched his jaw. He had expected this reaction. The Korvac respected warriors, fighters who proved themselves through power, and Jason had just changed the rules of the game. Varric slowly stood Still catching his breath, his golden eyes locked onto Jason. He was furious. "You Varix," growled, stepping closer. "You mock me, Jason." Tense Varix wasn't done. "The second fight, I challenge you to a real battle," Varix said, voice low and dangerous. "Not this dance." Jason let out a slow breath. "Great. He's not letting this go." Cather immediately stepped between them, his chest puffed out, tail twitching. "My brother, you lost. Do not shame yourself further." Varix growled, "I lost nothing." Jason glanced at Cthulhu. He could see the tension in his roommate's shoulders, the rigid stance of a Gorvax. Ready to fight for his leader, Jason shook his head. No, this was his mess. He had to clean it up, so Jason did something unexpected. He stepped forward, right into Varax's space. "I didn't mock you," Jason said, voice firm. "I defeated you. I didn't need to use brute force, because strength isn't about who can throw the hardest punch." Varax's jaw tightened then. "What is it about human?" Jason smirked control. Varix's nostrils flared. He didn't like that answer. Jason shrugged. "You were stronger than me, faster, more experienced. If I fought your way, I'd lose, but I fought my way." The murmurs around them grew louder. Jason kept his voice steady. "You say I dishonored the duel. I played by the rules. You lost because you relied too much on force." Varix's tail flicked sharply. "Then fight me again." Jason sighed. "I don't need to." The crowd gasped. Varix snarled, "Coward." Jason tilted his head. "If I'm a coward, then why are you the one still standing here, trying to prove yourself?" Varix opened his mouth, then stopped, because Jason was right. He had already lost. Korvax culture shaken. That moment, that exact moment, was when Jason saw it. Doubt. Not in Var. For the first time, Jason noticed it. Gorvax students shifting uncomfortably, exchanging uncertain glances, because Jason hadn't just beaten a warrior. He had beaten an idea. For centuries, the Gorvac had lived by a simple belief: might makes right, the strongest rule the weak obey. But Jason had rewritten the rule book. He had proved that strength alone wasn't enough, that intelligence, control, and patience could win battles just as easily as brute force, and that was dangerous. The red-skilled Gorvax, who had doubted Jason earlier, took a step back, his tail curling uncertainly. If this is true, if strength is not just power, then he trailed off, looking at Varix. Jason could almost see the mental shift happening in real time. Varix took a long, shuddering breath. Then, with slow, deliberate movement, he thumped his fist against his chest. "I will not fight you again," he said, "because I have already lost." The crowd went still. Jason blinked. "What?" Cather grinned. The Gorvok students who had doubted Jason lowered their heads and fought. Others stared at him with awe, and just like that, the legend of the battle Alpha was set in stone. Aftermath. The crowd eventually dispersed, murmuring amongst themselves. Varix left without another word, not angry, not humiliated, just thoughtful. Jason let out a huge breath and turned to Cthulhu. "So what just happened?" Cather smirked. "You won." Jason ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah, but I mean, I thought they'd be mad. I thought I broke some sacred rule or something." Cather's eyes claimed. "You did not break a rule. You created a new one." Jason frowned. "Ha." Cather crossed his arms. "The Gorvax have always believed that might makes right, that strength alone determines who leads." Jason nodded. "Right." And Cather's smirk grew wider. "Now they believe in something else." Jason's stomach twisted, which is Cather's tail flicked. "That you the first human to challenge our traditions, maybe the strongest of us all." Jason groaned. Great. Instead of ending the misunderstanding, he had just made it worse, and somehow that terrified him. A new legacy. Jason had done the impossible. He had faced a trained Korvox warrior, a seasoned fighter with years of combat experience, and won without throwing a single punch. He should have been relieved, but he wasn't, because he knew the truth. The battle hadn't ended. It had just begun. A new reputation. The day after his victory, Jason could feel the shift in how the campus treated him. Before, people whispered about him behind his back. Now they bowed when they saw him. Not deeply, not like some religious figure, but just a subtle nod of respect, the way soldiers might greet a superior officer. Even his professors treated him differently. His history instructor, the nervous four-eyed alien, used to stumble over his name. Today, he addressed Jason first. Before beginning the lecture, his voice filled with careful reverence. His combat instructor, who had once ignored Jason entirely, now paused mid-class to ask for his input on battle strategies. Jason had accidentally rewritten the Gorvax concept of strength, and now everyone Wanted to learn from him, Cather's pride Jason sighed as he made his way to his dorm, dodging another group of Gorvak. Students trying to get his attention, Cather walked beside him looking away too. Please, you should be proud. Cather, you have reshaped my peoples understanding of combat. This is historic, Jason. Gave him a flat, look, yeah, great. Historic, I'll add it to my resume. Couture. Chuckled, you act annoyed, yet I see it in your eyes. You are pleased, Jason huffed. What I am is exhausted. Cather thumped his chest. Then rest, you are the battle. Alpha, your people, Jason. Groaned, okay. Can we talk about that for a second? Why are people still calling me that? Cather frowned. Because it is your title, Jason. Threw his hands up. I never agreed to that. I never wanted to be some kind of warrior leader. Cather tilted his head. But you are Jason, ran a hand through his hair. Dude, I just wanted to survive my semester. Maybe make a few friends, not accidentally start an alien revolution. Cather smirked. Perhaps it was your destiny. Jason glared at him. Don't start with that destiny crap. Cather chuckled again, then paused. His expression turned serious. There is one more thing, he said. Jason sighed. Of course there is. What now? Cather hesitated. Then in a quiet voice, he said, the council has requested to meet you. Jason blinked. The Hookther's tail flicked. The Gorvak High Council, our planet's ruling leaders. Jason's stomach dropped. Oh hell no, summoned by the council. Jason didn't have a choice. The next day he was escorted to the Gorvak High Council's chamber. The building was massive, tall stone pillars, a grand open hall filled with ancient battle flags, and a circular table where 6 towering Gorvak elders sat. Jason stood in the center of the room, trying not to sweat. One of the elders, an older Gorvak with silver-lined scales, narrowed his golden eyes at Jason. You are the human warrior they call the battle alpha. Jason cleared his throat. Ah, that's what they say. Another elder, a female with jagged scars along her jawline, leaned forward. We have observed your methods, your tactics. You confuse us. Jason blinked. Sorry. The silver-scaled elder steepled his claws. For centuries, our people have followed one rule, strength rules. All has guided our wars, our leadership, our culture. The female elder tapped a claw against the table. But you defeated Varix. Without combat, you have challenged our beliefs, and now our young warriors are listening. Jason swallowed hard. Oh, that was bad. The silver-scaled elder's eyes darkened. Some believe this is a sign of weakness, that if we follow your ways, we will become soft. Jason exhaled. Look, I'm not trying to change your entire society. The elder raised a clawed hand. Others, however, believe you have shown us something we have forgotten. Jason hesitated. Which is the female elder's voice was calm but sharp. That true strength is more than brute force, that a warrior who wins without fighting is the most dangerous of all. Jason stared. Yes, sure, let's go with that. The silver-scaled elder leaned forward. You are not Gorvaks, yet you have earned the respect of our people. His golden eyes locked onto Jason's. We wish to offer you something. Jason's stomach twisted. Oh no. The elder exhaled. A place among us, a seat at the war table. Jason froze. They wanted to make him an honorary Gorvak's warrior, a leader, a voice in their society. Assembled. Jason's answer. Jason had no idea what to say. This was insane. Completely insane. He wasn't a warlord. He wasn't a tactician. He was just a college student. But the Gorvak, they believed in him. Jason took a deep breath. Think he couldn't just say no, that would be an insult. But if he said yes, he swallowed. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not a leader. I don't want to change your traditions. I just think maybe strength isn't just about muscles. The elders exchanged glances. After a long pause, the female elder smirked. A wise answer. The silver-scaled elder gave a slow nod. We will not force this upon you. Jason exhaled in relief, but the elder added, whether you accept it or not, you have already changed us. Jason groaned internally. Of course I have a new beginning. Jason walked out of the council chamber with Cthulhu at his side. So Jason muttered, that could have gone worse. Cather chuckled. You truly do. Now I understand what you have done. Jason shot him a look. Dude, I've been saying that since day one. Cather grinned. You may not be a warlord, but you are something far more dangerous. Jason sighed. What now? Cather smirked. A legend. Jason groaned.